For over a century, academic consensus has been clear. Moses could not have written the Torah. The alphabet simply didn't exist in his time. But in 2019, a filmmaker dared to challenge the entire scholarly establishment and ignited a war. This is the story of an academic battle that tore through universities, destroyed reputations, and asked the ultimate question: who controls the truth about our past? Timothy Mahoney wasn't a scholar. He was a filmmaker with a dangerous idea. After investigating claims about the Exodus, he stumbled upon something that would shake the foundations of biblical archaeology. The problem was simple. If Moses lived in the 15th or 13th century BCE, how could he have written Hebrew texts when Hebrew writing wouldn't exist for another 500 years? It was an insurmountable chronological wall that had stood for generations. But Mahoney had found scholars who claimed that wall was built on false assumptions. Enter the rebels. David Rohl, an Egyptologist who had been redating ancient history for decades. Douglas Petrovich, a biblical scholar with credentials in ancient languages. And Rabbi Michael Bar-On, a Hebrew speaker who claimed to see biblical text where others saw meaningless scratches. They weren't just questioning dates, they were claiming that inscriptions found in Egyptian mines, primitive scratches on rock faces dating back nearly 4,000 years, were actually Hebrew, the first Hebrew, written by Israelites, possibly even by Moses himself. The academic establishment was not amused. Professor Orly Goldwasser of Hebrew University spoke for many when she dismissed the claims. Her mentor, the late Joseph Nava, would be turning in his grave, she said, at the suggestion that these ancient marks were Hebrew. But the rebels had evidence. They pointed out that Nava himself had admitted that in the 10th century BCE, Hebrew, Phoenician, and Aramaic were indistinguishable from one another. If that was true, why assume the earlier script was Phoenician rather than Hebrew? Behind the academic language, a bitter personal battle was raging. Douglas Petrovich, armed with a PhD and years of specialized training, unleashed a devastating critique not just of the theories but of the people promoting them. David Rohl, he declared, was not a scholar, merely a bachelor's degree holder with no knowledge of Hebrew who relied on amateur translations by rabbis unqualified to read ancient texts. The rabbi who had translated inscriptions for the film, Petrovich, was brutal. He has no idea what he's doing. Even filmmaker Timothy Mahoney wasn't spared. Petrovich compared him to rats who follow the Pied Piper blindly. But the story didn't end there. Rabbi Michael Bar-On emerged with claims that would either revolutionize ancient history or expose the dangers of wishful thinking masquerading as scholarship. Using high-resolution photography and 8 years of painstaking analysis, Bar-On claimed to have found something extraordinary: Moses' actual signature in stone. Zot Mamosha. This is from Moses, carved into rock alongside instructions about consuming manna in the wilderness. The academic world split violently. Professor Peter van der Veen confirmed, "You're absolutely correct, I read this as well, it is not imagined." David Rohl called it amazing and brilliant, but Dr. Thomas Schneider of the University of British Columbia delivered a crushing verdict: completely unproven and misleading, arbitrary identifications that could distort ancient history. The academic counterattack was swift and brutal. Christopher Rolston of George Washington University, one of America's leading epigraphers, declared Petrovich's claims absolutely and empirically wrong. Robert Holmstead of the University of Toronto delivered a particularly devastating blow, revealing that Petrovich studied no Hebrew grammar or Northwest Semitic epigraphy with me at the University of Toronto, where he wrote his doctoral thesis. The methodological criticisms were relentless. Scholars pointed to flawed notions of Hebrew grammar and equally problematic Egyptian analysis. The academic establishment wasn't just disagreeing, they were systematically dismantling the foundations of the argument. What emerged wasn't just a disagreement about ancient inscriptions, it was a window into how academic institutions guard their authority. 17 years of teaching one theory without mentioning alternatives. Scholars told no one reads that around here when they questioned established positions. One professor realized his academic circle's stance on biblical origins was, in his words, a faith position. They simply didn't want to consider alternatives. This wasn't really about alphabets or archaeological dates. This was about power. The power to determine what counts as legitimate knowledge. On one side, credentialed scholars defending methodological standards and peer review. On the other, outsiders claiming those very standards were being used to suppress inconvenient discoveries. If the rebels were right, the implications were staggering. Moses was historical, the Bible was reliable, and the entire academic establishment had been wrong for generations. If they were wrong, it represented something equally dangerous: the breakdown of scholarly standards under pressure from religious believers willing to see evidence where none existed. At the heart of the controversy lay a fundamental question: what constitutes valid evidence? Petrovich demanded rigorous peer review and proper credentials. Bahran relied on visual analysis and linguistic intuition. Roll promoted popular theories without specialized training. Each side accused the other of bias. The establishment scholars were defenders of truth, protecting academic integrity, or they were gatekeepers suppressing paradigm shifts to protect their careers. The challengers were brave truth seekers following evidence wherever it led, or they were amateur enthusiasts projecting their beliefs onto ambiguous ancient marks. Professor Manfred Biotach's excavations had found Israelite-style houses in ancient Egypt. Egyptian texts mentioned Goshen. Archaeological evidence seemed to support biblical narratives. But correlation isn't causation, and ancient marks on stones remain frustratingly ambiguous. The same inscriptions that Bahran read as Hebrew, others saw as undecipherable scratches. The same evidence that convinced some scholars left others utterly unmoved. Today, the battle continues in academic journals, online forums, and documentary films. No consensus has emerged. No decisive evidence has been accepted by all sides. The Moses controversy did accomplish one thing. It revealed how knowledge is made, defended, and challenged in the modern world. It showed that even the most ancient questions can become contemporary battles over authority, methodology, and truth. Whether Moses wrote Hebrew or not, one thing is certain: the controversy over his alphabet has written a new chapter in the eternal struggle between established knowledge and revolutionary claims. Some questions may never be answered, but the fight to answer them reveals as much about us as it does about our past. For more exciting forays into Yahuwah and His Word, check out Anthony.Hilton at card.co or listen to Kol Tzion Covenant Messenger on YouTube. Baruch Haba B'Shem Yahuwah, Yahuwah builds Tzion.